I was just reading all over these counties, people are now going into the small communities, the outdoor community theater, I think that's about, everybody.
Yeah, no, well, those, yeah, they just said everybody's place. I mean, okay.
No more.
Oh, I put my name on the. First name, right? And the last name is Susan Freeman.
So did you all get your tax bill today?
Oh, I didn't go to the post office today.
Yep.
They go up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, what I've been hearing on the news, yeah.
Well, and it's gonna go extra higher up if you had benefited from the,
Homestead exemption.
All right, yeah,
fixing last year, so it does double the jump, yeah.
okay, good.
All those people that took advantage of it.
Should not have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now they have to pay it back.
yeah.
Well, not paid back, you still got 1 year,
So was there misinformation and people signed up for it that should not have, or?
No, they
No.
just continue.
Yeah, it was just not well thought out. I mean, the principle was good, but not well designed. Yeah.
I see, so the blind man, not.
Yeah.
We were just talking. What gorgeous weather, huh? Oh,
Hmm.
oh, I agree. That and the month of September, my favorite. That's why I don't want to be the very end of the month, September.
Did you write a letter actually to the past committee or that you're gonna present or what do you, I didn't understand the note that came in.
Oh, I don't know whether you saw it. All I did was when I read all the minutes in the committee meetings, I identified what I thought would be missing.
So
Is that
this,
what you're talking
we'll
about? You're talking
discuss,
about something else.
was this presented last time or is this for tonight?
For tonight.
Okay,
Here.
yeah, I have some comments about that too. Okay, good.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Was one of them tripped?
Yes.
No, we were here. I think it's two different pieces together.
Oh, good.
So,
Oh, Kevin,
Oh,
the one piece.
Great on time you are.
yeah, I. It was a gig 3 minutes ago, so.
Oh.
If I'm supposed to sit?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, is yours, maybe I can have that.
oh, no, I haven't.
I know.
Trying to feel very official.
Oh, shoot, what happened to the yellow? Uh-oh.
Yes. Jason Miriam is an architect, Miriam. Architecture. And he
Yeah.
replied. The sequence, you know, he said he would be interested, but he didn't have time to write something.
Right, I just, it's, that crazy. So he's in Portland or?
No, he's right in Rockland.
Oh,
All right, let's go ahead and start the meeting. 5:32. And first item is adjustments to the agenda.
One,
Is that any adjustments? Good. Okay, and then to review and approve the prior meeting minutes of July 30th.
mhm.
And I sent them out again this afternoon with a more complete email list, so
Mhm.
if you want to reply all to the committee, that would be a good one to use. Candace, I still have 2 emails for you. I don't know which one you prefer.
Okay, I sent you a,
Oh, I
Text
haven't
on the
gone
way through.
back since
Okay.
I sent that.
no, it's just the plain, I'm a Hotmail person, I'm not changing.
Okay, the Hotmail. All right, and if you could just change the subject line so people understand that's like where the draft minutes are or whatever,
Okay,
that would be good. All right, so is everyone,
You gotta admit Sally Nixon.
oh, thank you.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Then moved and seconded, we approve the minutes of the July 30th meeting. All in favor?
it looks like
Opposed?
you didn't admit it.
yes,
So, first item. Next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll go to old business and discuss the recommended reading and additional resources. Michael has handed out a paper of the missing minutes and surveys. I'm still looking for the comments from the very first survey. I haven't come up with them yet. They're not a digital, they're handwritten.
And Hannah is looking for some other information that would be good for us to have that we haven't found otherwise yet.
Some more minutes and stuff.
Minutes and some of the internal workings of the Butler Committee.
Okay.
Um, And I can't remember whether it's a set of minutes or notes,
mhm.
just so that we would have a complete set of everything that we could find that had gone on before, so the good context for our work.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts about these available reading?
We will take a look, that's for sure. You lift up every rock.
So Candace, you have found everything on your computer and you will send it to
You. Oh, or to everybody.
everybody and Hannah.
And Hannah. Well, actually, I'm gonna send it to Hannah. She's got everybody's emails and then I'll ask her just to pump it out. Is that appropriate or no?
Why don't you go ahead and send it to that email I sent out today, change the subject. And
Do that.
hopefully I can add Hannah on, there. But if not, copy of Hannah.
Okay.
Myra?
I'll check it.
I-
I'll check it.
On the page Mike will hand it out. The reason July 30th will not be approved, there's no quorum. Of the original members, and John should have gone over that at your last meeting, because there are four people that are still on the committee, but you didn't have a quorum, and so he should have told you that, because it's part of your history, but it can't be approved, because people resign. Just FYI.
Thanks.
Well, the planning board had, their member come in and approve the minutes, but.
Right, that happened, and if that's feasible, we should ask those people, I'm sure will come in and do that.
Mhm. All right, so. Anything else about item A?
Yeah, I think I was the one that suggested that we do that, and I don't know that we need to. Check and make sure everyone did it or talk about it, but I thought it was, that was how I got what understanding I have so far. Of the history, not being a resident, not having been involved in a lot of it, and I thought it was useful, and I just think as we move forward. Being able to refer to the structural report and everyone kind of knowing, if not knowing the science behind it, kind of knowing what it is and what it's intended to do is just gonna be helpful, so I don't know if anybody wants to talk about any of that stuff, I don't feel super. But
Well, I found the structural report the most interesting of all the information that we got, and the key point for me was that the less we change about the school, the less we're gonna provoke as our code issues. There's shear walls that are built in here by the nature of the classrooms and the hallways, and we really will provoke a lot of change, a lot of extra expense. The roof was also an issue. The roof is sort of at its limit, and if we were to try to do a gable roof or something more complicated even, it would provoke other things if the best I understand it from the structural report.
yeah, I don't think we're really there yet in terms of what we're gonna do, because one, those reports are seemingly good work, but a few years old and.
The structural was, I checked it against the existing drawings and they were spot on.
Oh, yeah, well, the drawings are from 1950, so they wouldn't have changed.
But her report was from 2019
Right,
and she references the specifications, and I called her today to ask if she had them, but I got no response yet, but we're underway.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't feel a need to. Go too deep into it, because just by the nature of the work we're gonna do, we're gonna be constantly coming back to it, so.
But it was a good point to begin. It's good, I mean, I hadn't really sat down to read it all at all until just recently. And I took notes and I was very happy because, like you said, there were many positives, but there are pieces of it that are still questioning in my mind, but I think it's a good reference point.
Yeah.
And Kevin, why don't you lose the discussion about the proposals that you see?
Sure, so we received two proposals. I think Catherine had sent emails about two more. Which didn't come in as formal proposals, but were expressions of interest on some level. So I think they think it makes sense to focus on the two that we got and see if we like one or both of those, and if we are sort of violently opposed to both of those, and maybe dig a little deeper, but I can talk a little bit about them. Archetype, we sort of already talked about. I've done a lot of work with both of these firms. They're both competent firms. I'd be comfortable with either one. They have some strengths and weaknesses, I think, that are maybe not quite apparent in these proposals, but I'm happy to talk about, but I think it's, I think it'd be a good discussion for the committee to see what you liked or didn't like about both and what you thought, and I can sort of add any sort of institutional knowledge I have about any questions that come up, but I think it's really the committee's decision on which one you may want to go with, if you want to go with one of them. I do think it'd be good to kind of keep the ball rolling. We're only meeting once a month, but I think the one of the things I try to do when I'm managing projects is get enough work done when the decision makers are in the room so that the people doing the work can work the whole month while we're, waiting to meet again. So, I'd like to be able to try to make decisions efficiently, but obviously we all have to be comfortable with the decisions we're making. So, the proposals are generally, I think, apples to apples. They're worded a little bit differently, but I think they're generally for the same scope. I'm happy to talk about the two architectural firms if you'd like, but I think maybe it's better to just start a group discussion rather than have me sort of say what I think. I don't want to have my thumb on the scale necessarily, and I think it's fine either way.
I like the Winton Scott architects one the best. I mean, the things that they did, a lot of them, it looks like they've redone a lot of schools.
Yeah.
Which is what we're interested in, and then the stuff around Portland, I'm familiar with all the work that they've done around Portland. So
Yeah.
I just like this one better.
Yeah.
My opinion.
And I have to say, I was impressed with that as well. The type of work and the integrity of the basic structure that was there. They worked with. And amazing results. It looks like it's it fits into a lot of the things that we don't want, the light pieces and the environmental components, solar and what have you.
They do have a nice sense of the old and the new together, they do a nice job. Archetype does too, but I think that you're right about Wayne Scott. They have a really good design sense of how those things.
They also
Fit
they
together.
kept a lot of it, that they kept talking about the envelope and, preserving the envelope of it. That's what's
Yeah.
one of the things I took away from it. When they were talking about the schools and how to protect it and.
They do give one specific example of a glass block building, the Bucksport School.
Yeah.
Which they modified in a way that could suggest Gilbert Butler. It looks a heck of a lot better afterwards. And that's something that we'll address. I mean, I will say that it has a lot of pictures which were helpful. The other proposal came in much earlier and they had not as much time to present it. They definitely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's a dozen projects that they worked on to completion. So it's hard for me to evaluate it. Kevin, what's your estimate of, who's gonna work on the job? And how many times will they come here to look at it and et cetera?
Well, in terms of experience, both of these firms didn't list half the stuff they have. Archetype has done dozens of these things. I don't know, I've probably done about a dozen schools and they've probably done 2/3 to 3/4 of those. Wynn Scott's done a couple, including the Waterville one that was in there is mine. Archetype's done most of them. That said, firms are a little different. Archetype's a bigger firm, more into production. They've grown a lot. They have as an architectural firm gets bigger, there's more, the scope is broken out a little bit and you have junior architects working under senior architects. Wynn Scott's a smaller firm and pretty much everyone there is a very senior accomplished architect in their own right, which is kind of nice. So you're always working with a principal no matter what at Wynn Scott. Archetype has some. David Lloyd, who's a good personal friend of mine, who signed the proposal, is semi-retired, but still consulting for Archetype and the extent to which he would be involved is a little unclear to me, which is a little bit of a question for me. I think they're a good firm and could do well, but the other two architects who are on the proposal, I know them, I've seen them, I've worked with them, but not to the extent that I've worked with all the others. When I first started talking to Archetype, I asked Barry and David to give me a proposal, because Barry is the architect doing my Rockland project right now. And I already knew Barry was kind of coming to Rockland, so I thought, here's a good opportunity to grab the guy over there who I like a lot, who's kind of my guy there now. And they came back with a proposal for some others, and so it's okay, it's not a big deal, but I think Winton Scott kind of came in with their principles, and they put some put a fair amount of care. It's a quickly produced proposal, but with a lot of care in it, so. I think you're seeing that. And your question about how often they're gonna come, I don't think they said, but I think they're probably both imagining they'll probably come up here and meet with us maybe a couple times, and they'll probably come up here one more time to muck around in the building and draw things and get work done. That's about what I would anticipate. Maybe they would send someone up a second time. Depends on how long it would take them. You know, they budgeted a certain amount of hours implicitly in the quote that they gave us, but they're gonna work to do a good job because they care less about this. They hope that it comes to a building project and that they did a good job and that you choose them to pay them, you know, $300,000 to do the design for the whole building. So it's a little bit of a loss leader for them. So that as long as we're not exhausting to them and making them come to meeting after meeting and asking them, you know, questions that they answered 3 months ago, they're gonna wanna give us good service and do a good job, I think.
I went on the website to Archetype because they didn't send the pictures and they're both very comparable
Yeah.
as far as the work that they've done, and they've both done amazing projects. How firm, what would the cost go over the proposal for either one?
It can't, it's a fixed fee.
Okay.
The way the cost would go over is if we ask for stuff that's kind of outside. budget
Outside.
Scope, you know.
So if everything is so comparable except for
$3,000.
$3,000, why wouldn't we go with the one that's less?
I think where it's $3,000, it's close enough to where you pick the one you like the best.
I couldn't do that.
You don't-
Yeah, I mean, everything was
I think the
just.
group- I think that's what the group should think about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, it's not a place to be penny wise and pound foolish. If you like the $12,000 one better, you should pick that one. If you like the $15,000 one better, you should pick that one. It's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
yeah.
Well, plus I was just looking again at the Vinton Scott piece, and on the last page, it says the fees, WSA proposes a lump sum fee of 15,000 to complete work as described, blah, blah, blah. And they, typical reimbursement costs related to travel, printing, postage, et cetera, in support of the project are included in the lump sum fee.
Yeah.
So they probably have a scope of idea of the frequency of visits that will happen.
Yeah, they've guessed at how many hours it will take them. And if they spend all those hours and they're still going, they're gonna call me and complain, you know, but there's a certain amount of play in that where they'll just kind of do it anyway. But if we'll know if we're asking for a lot more work, and we'll know if, you know, we kind of ought to negotiate more money with anybody. But it's not like oh, I was here till 9:30, that's gonna be extra. It's not like that.
Mhm.
So I thought that was good, and that's helpful to us as far as knowing that they anticipate numerous visits. They didn't say how many, that's still it's there. The idea.
Kevin, your first your first call was the Archetype.
I know.
Does that mean anything?
No, that was based on just that, I felt, you know, first of all, my relationships are in Portland. That's been made and it's been talked about before, both good and bad, but it is what it is. So those are the folks I know, and having done a lot of these schools and having worked with architects to do a lot of these schools, I just feel very comfortable with the firms I know. And my first thought was Archetype because I already had them up here in Rockland, and I was thinking,
Mhm.
you know, if I'm trying to entice somebody to come down and look at this thing in South Thomaston and kind of mess around with us for a few months, I thought that would be that was the reason I called them first. It wasn't because I thought they're the ones for the job. I think you should choose who you like, and you know, I'm happy to not even like be a tie-breaking vote, but then you guys can pick, you know.
No, clearly the Winton Scott proposal is much more developed. You're saying that we would end up working more with principals than junior architects?
Yeah, I don't know if that's quite
Potentially.
the right word, but seasoned, you know, 20-year professionals that have made their bones in the field of architecture, I guess. I'm not saying that Catherine and the other guy there are not registered architects. I haven't even worked with Mike Coyne, I have worked with him. Yeah,
I think I'm looking for your recommendation because you're the one that know these two. And I will be happy to go with who you recommend.
Well, this is committee though. This is a committee. This
I
is
know,
I agree,
so
but
the way I look at it, it seems like they are both totally competent
Yeah.
to do the
Mhm.
work. And so in the end, it comes to size of the company. One is bigger than the other, so, you know, with one is more nimble, might be more responsive, as the other one, you know, more overhead on the other side. So, you know, you have to weigh all these things, but you're the one who has experience with both companies, so, you know, you have to tell us.
one more question. What are their typical fees for the final portion of the project?
They're in the same ballpark. I think, I think that, used to be Archetype was the best deal in town. Inflation was kind of eating away at some of that. And I don't think we can say that one would be necessarily cheaper than the other.
And we can discuss it with them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want this to be I don't want you guys to rubber stamp what I think. This is supposed to be, we're all supposed to be empowered to come to a decision, and maybe what I would put back to you is, why don't you guys decide? If I've got a massive problem with it, I'll tell you, but I'm comfortable with both of these, so why don't you?
If you look at what Archetype did, I mean, they did hotel renovation, apartments, housing units, blah, blah, blah. That's the reason I like the other one better.
No,
So I just think they have, it's a better company.
Could I ask for clarification, like, when you asked, when you just asked of Kevin, what are the closing fees? What do you kind of anticipate the closing fees? I'm not familiar with that, so.
No. For the next phase of the work,
Okay,
it'll be a certain percentage. It'll be 5%, 6%, 7%,
I
whatever and it's negotiable and, I honestly think that we're in quite a simple, design phase. We have the existing drawings for this building. There's a lot of ADA elevation issues in my mind, but, the addition is fairly simple. We're going to, probably include bathrooms and a kitchen design in that easy part.
Basement.
And so we're hoping that they will be cost effective. That's all I can say.
that's great. That's all I needed. Thank you so much.
Mhm. I make a motion that we approve Wynn Scott Architects, based on the complete nature of their proposal, and,
Never change. It's okay, I mean, to me, I'm totally indifferent at this point. you
I'll
know.
second that motion.
Yeah,
could I amend it with the assumption that they come in the next 2 weeks for a review meeting,
I mean, I'm not,
based on their schedule?
we're not gonna fire them if they don't, I mean. I understand you wanna, we'll do what we can.
I'm gonna
Are you
move
heading
ahead.
back to Wisconsin in 2 weeks?
No,
Oh, I see
no.
how it is.
I'm not heading back in 2 weeks. I want to be here when they,
Yeah.
do it, and even for a subsequent meeting, so that's the idea.
Yeah.
Kevin, you're kicking me. Okay,
Well, I guess if we're in discussion now on the motion having been seconded, I think if anyone feels strongly the other way, make your case, because I haven't heard anybody do that yet, so I think it's important if people feel like that's not the way to go, that this is the time to have the discussion.
Well, I like the size of Win Scott. The size of the projects they've done and the size of the firm both. Worth out of small potatoes in many ways, and I think to work with a smaller outfit and somebody that's done smaller projects could be beneficial for us.
so that's Archetype, no?
Hmm?
Which one is the smaller company?
Win Scott.
Okay, okay, good.
I have a question about the insulation issues in this building. Separate from the fact that it's a quasi-historic building. Are you familiar enough with these firms to think that one will be a better choice in terms of addressing the insulation issues, which essentially are the walls as well as the roof?
No, because the fact is, they're probably gonna rely on third-party help anyway, to design the envelope. There'll be an energy model and there'll be a consultant and, that's really not part of this. So what I think is anticipated for this phase is they're gonna, make a few phone calls, talk to some folks, come look at the existing wall assemblies, look at the existing roof and make some recommendations and kind of write it up. But as we move into design and we hire a firm that's designing a brand new addition that can be, lead whatever, triple glaze, whatever, some of the things the previous group was talking about in the high goals of sustainability. We're not gonna want all the heat flying out this wing while that wing is super tight,
Right.
so. That's when we'll have probably an envelope consultant and we'll look at those things and and an architect is less of a generalist than a developer, but they're usually not quite specific enough where they're gonna do all the science behind that themselves.
That's important to know, sure, guys, I was thinking about that as well as I was reading some of the reports. Today, and, blowing in cellulose came to my mind, and of course, logic cubes, blocks, and all kinds of things, so. That's a whole separate entity to what we're looking at as far as the architectural things, so that's good.
It's related, it's separate, it's like generally the way architects' contracts work is you have structural engineering, mechanical, electrical and plumbing,
Mhm.
all under the architects. As they're their sub-consultants and,
Yeah.
energy consultant might be one of those as well.
Yeah.
They may or may not need one, but civil engineering, which would be the site, is usually separate from the architect, so it's kind of all wrapped in. Depending on how deep we want to dive into it, there's also this concept of payback, do you want to eliminate, you have diminishing returns for eliminating the air leaks in the building.
Mhm.
And what I've always been taught by the smart architects I've worked with is your best payback, and if you only have a certain amount of money to spend on energy efficiency, your best payback's always in the roof. Always an insulated roof. People want to go triple glazed windows and fancy stuff, but do the roof first. And, I've done buildings with uninsulated walls and a nice tight roof and it bleeds some heat, but you're gonna spend $3 million to make it tight. It doesn't pass the payback test, so there'll be,
Oh, Yeah.
here, when we get into the concept of payback, it'll be interesting because in an economic situation where you're investing money to get a return, you're looking at dollars spent on capital versus annual savings, and you can put a rate on it and all that. With us, we have that same math we ought to do, but we're not investing the money to make a return. We're raising the money to not put a burden on the taxpayers in the future. So it's gonna be, well, if we could raise just this much more, we'd be this much less burdened in the future. And it might kind of change the math a little bit and cause us to try to reach a little deeper that one time to have a better building forever.
Mhm.
It's the same concept, but differently applied.
I made a motion. Did anybody second it?
I seconded it.
We're in the
Okay.
discussion right now. It's on the floor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just missed it. So.
Anybody else have any
No, I think
issues,
we can
questions?
get to
We
vote.
ready to vote?
Aye,
All those in favor?
yes,
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have to say our name? Or-
No, you just have to show your hand.
I'm just gonna abstain so nobody gets mad at me.
Maureen, are you voting?
I did already vote on.
Congratulations, we made our first big decision.
Okay.
Well done.
So procedurally, I guess we have to take it to the select board and spend money.
Do we?
I think so.
The select board signs the contract.
Oh, yeah, you gave
us the money,
huh?
Aren't they meeting tomorrow?
Yes, they get upset when things aren't on the agenda,
Oh, yeah.
but
That doesn't mean we can't go ahead with a meeting with the architects. I think it's a pro forma that the select board will approve it.
Right.
I don't,
I would hope so.
not to,
Their agenda isn't that big, so I'm sure that.
I think we do wanna think about being careful as things do progress, because if we get to the point where some people like it and some people don't, it's things like that that people will seize on.
Okay.
to try to
Yes,
block
yeah,
things. So I think it's okay. I think we can start working with them, but just as a point of caution, that if we sort of play fast and loose.
The risk is on the architect, not the community.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't mean this particular instance, I mean just in general. I think the more we can hew to proper procedure, the less ammunition we'll give somebody who wants to.
When, what is the procedure for getting on the agenda for the select board?
Well, I will be there tomorrow night. I can ask
If you can
the,
add
to
to the
consider
agenda.
it, and John will say, well, it wasn't on the agenda, then
Can
we
you
might
do
have to be
that?
put on the next one. Which would be.
But they've already
approximately 2
approved the
weeks
money
from
for
tomorrow.
doing it,
Yes,
so,
I don't think that's the end of the world, like you said, you know,
yeah,
okay.
I think we should just keep that in mind if we get to a point where things get a little more, a little less consensus. There's tends starts to be some controversy around some of the things we're doing, and
yeah,
we should just keep that in mind.
all right.
Um,
Well, I will put that before them tomorrow night and see what they say. Okay. Oh, now let's move on. So that brings us to other business. I don't have any I could think of. Does anybody?
I think we mentioned last month, we might talk about money.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
that's what.
how is that grant? Do we know anything about?
Oh, I do know a little bit about it. Well, we're in Pingree's
Mhm.
round. I did see Senator King at an event, and I was like, hey, I heard you pulled us out. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And, he didn't know anything about it.
Oh.
So didn't happen, it wasn't his decision. It happened at a lower level. And I didn't push him on it, but he, you know. I think he's an ally. And when we're ready, I think he will be an ally. So I don't have a ton of concern there, but. I thought it was interesting that he
Mm,
was like,
Didn't know anything.
what are you talking about, Kevin?
Yeah.
Do we need to reapply?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It was my understanding, and talking with another person from South Thomaston, that the application is pretty rote. There is a set application and you just fill out the blanks.
Yeah. I've been on a number of teams that have gained them, but I've never had the pleasure of having to fill it out, but I did see the one the group filled
Pleasure.
out before, and it was pretty,
I have not seen it. Can we get a copy of it?
thought we had yeah, that was one of the things we were gonna read, but yeah, it's a bit, certainly, I've seen it.
Okay.
Who has a copy of that?
Public information.
Okay, I wasn't able to access. it.
And what about the Pingree grant?
I don't know anything more about that.
Okay, because we were told it, the last time I was in town, people were saying that we got pulled out because of the indecision scenario that they felt we were in at that point, and it had, it had changed, because first it was new, and now the town voted to refurbish, and that they didn't want to get involved in that.
The last contact I had with Pingree's people, I spoke with them on the phone before this committee started, it's new work. And they had told me that they weren't so much concerned about that at all. They would just wanted to make sure it was gonna go somewhere. And I get that, they didn't necessarily say it, but I got the sense they weren't necessarily interested in being involved in something that was gonna be a political firestorm, which is kind of what it felt like at the time. There was
Yes.
a lot of angry people
Yeah.
on both sides. So I don't know if they pull it or not, but I think what we need to do is the same regardless. And I think that the more progress that we can make on the work that we need to do is only gonna benefit the situation, no matter what it is. So honestly, I haven't put a lot of headspace to it since then.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe of those are some things that I could help out with. So are you suggesting that we also need to reapply? For that
No, I wasn't
or-
talking about that at all. What
The
I was
kinks.
talking about is
No things I know.
Can't.
yeah, but when I said money, what I meant was not the overall project budget. but the amount of work that we want to do. John's been very generous and earmarked some money for us to get started with, but the architect's not the only thing we're gonna want to spend money on. We talked about a survey, we talked about, a parking plan and a little civil engineering, probably from Gartley and Dorsey. They've already been working on the project and they're right here, but, I think that, maybe for next month, we should think about how much money we need to do what we see as our work, where we're gonna finish this thing and say, here it is, town, what do you think? And make sure that we have that and raise that and.
I do think that when making progress with the architect, getting through that phase, Kevin, how long is that gonna take, you think? Will lead us to the fundraising ability.
I think we will be the bottleneck, not the architect, I think.
Okay,
I think if you just gave the architect the thing and they were meeting with. Pick two of us, making decisions and going away, doing it. You might be talking about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks to get it set up and 3 or 4 weeks to spit out some designs, and if we like the first ones we got, we kind of have it. I think this committee is probably gonna need a little more time, because we meet once a month and there's more of us. So it feels more like maybe 3 months to me.
I'd like to propose that we try to meet in 3 weeks and then another 3-week interval.
Why don't we see what we can get out of Winton for a schedule, Winton's team for a schedule? I keep saying Winton because Winton actually just passed away just this year. He's been out of the firm for many years, but he just passed away. I don't wanna set up a schedule and then they say,
Mhm.
what are you talking about?
I'm just asking.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to push them certainly as fast as I can. So my sense is, and you, what was your donation that you did for pre-development? What was your commitment?
$15,000 paid to the town.
Yeah.
Check is cashed.
Yeah, so my sense is we ought to maybe just roughly try to have double that on hand. I'd like to donate some. I'm gonna do I had talked about a pledge if we go to construction. Usually what I do is, I'll make a capital campaign pledge, but I'll make it contingent upon starting construction, because I don't wanna spend money on something that doesn't happen. John has shamed me a little bit in his willingness to take risk. So I feel like I ought to put a little bit in too, so I think I'd probably throw 5,000 at it to add to it, and then maybe if we can find 10 more. From some willing parties, then I think we'd be in a reasonable shape, but I haven't done any cost budget or anything like that.
Question to you, my dear. In your green light, do you have donations that are
No,
recorded?
nothing was ever done with it because, didn't happen.
Okay, so at this point in time, it's ready, waiting, right?
What's that? I can't
I
understand.
say at this point, it's ready and it's waiting. And all you need are donation inputs.
Well, I will need name and all kinds of, data to input, yeah.
Right. Did we agree to accept the same cards? I think we did talk about that at our last meeting, that we would use the same format. If people come into the town hall or whatever and want to make donations, there was some kind of a card that they would get back from us.
Yeah, they updated.
Updated
that,
pledge card, yeah.
So that's all set. Okay, the pledge card. Right. Yep. All right. Well,
I just want to be clear, should we reapply to King for the funding?
yes.
Presumably, yes, but we're just not there yet.
Okay,
I mean, we have to, what we want to avoid is deciding we're gonna apply to King and get all this money and coming up with a plan that people don't like, because we've seen that.
Yeah, you can't.
We know how it
I
ends.
think
We know
it's
at
too
the end
early.
of-
too early.
okay, that's,
No,
I
it's
just
just
want
a-
to be,
I mean,
that to
the
be clear.
window is closed for this year.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
So
we're,
it wouldn't be until April of next
we've got
year.
our noses down, pencils out
Yeah.
through the winter, and hopefully in the spring, we have a nice thing that we feel good about, we can,
Submit, and
yeah.
I just wanted to be clear on that.
And
mean,
again,
he-
all those
King needs to get
grants
reelected.
include a matching portion. So, they
From
may
the
grant,
town.
yes, so that we need to raise as well from people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My sense is there's gonna be some early champions who may wanna contribute some, and some folks who are gonna wanna maybe not be involved, and some folks that are gonna wait on the fence to see if,
Which way it goes, yeah.
you know, if we're serious and competent and have the best interest of the town at heart, which is probably a good stance to have, but we're gonna need some early champions like John that will say, you know what, this is worth taking a flyer on, you know?
I'm familiar with the process and, we often, it's risk money, you front it, because you believe in a project and, Pam and I are able to do it, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but I'm confident that that will happen.
Yeah.
So I see it as no risk, but, you know.
Cool.
Now, as far as matching funds to CVS money and stuff, what about Maine Preservation is that?
They don't have a ton of money. They have a little bit of technical assistance money, is my understanding, for groups that sort of don't have, that are just trying to, we've got this building, how do we save it? It's a Grange Hall in Eustis, you know, that kind of thing. This group might be eligible for some of that. I've never accessed any of it personally, but I know of groups that have, so I have to look into that a little bit.
My own feeling is that the architects may likely, and the envelope people may suggest that the exterior of the building be insulated. That's a tricky, Kevin, what do you think?
I think if it gets insulated, you're gonna wanna insulate the interior from the inside out, not the exterior, because you just destroyed all the historic character if you cover the brick.
I've been asking a lot of questions and I've asked, Rachel Snow, many people are not wedded to the characters.
Yeah.
And they're willing to do it. They're more wedded to, some of the emphasis that I've heard is wedded to green building.
Yeah.
And so I've renovated many buildings, with attention to detailed, our historic detail, but, we have a chance here with the solar panels to, I think, to heat it with heat pumps. And that's one of my questions.
Yeah.
If it's well insulated. And that was a trade-off that was discussed. Rachel Snow was doing some of these discussions with people. You know, if it's well insulated, if it's a green building, are you willing to have the building look different than it now looks? And,
I don't think that's it's not a binary thing. If you've ever put 2 inches of spray foam on the inside of a brick building and then try to feel the air coming through, it's pretty incredible. So
there is no air coming through, but it does provoke, changes to the interior. I'm open to doing, I would prefer to have the brick stay, but, I think we have to be open to a variety of solutions, and I would hope that the architect will direct us to envelope, can make a sort of a 2 different, approaches to it.
yeah, I mean, I personally think it would be tragic aesthetically,
Okay,
but
all right.
that's just me. I can be outvoted.
I'd be, if there's a way of doing it that doesn't provoke, we're gonna change the heating, that's gonna be gone along the walls. Perhaps, okay, there's a lot of different solutions, so.
I mean, if
People-
you're looking at the space the radiators take, if you take the radiators out, you can have your wall inside that creates the insulation.
Yeah, I mean, John's right. It's gonna be cheaper to slap some blue insulation on the outside, seam it up, call it a day, vinyl it over, and bam, you're
No,
done.
no, no.
What?
That's not what I had in mind.
What? I just, I would be horrified to.
Me too.
Okay, well, the only thing I would say
I mean,
in
we're not gonna. go back to
juxtaposition to that
either.
is a lot of people are looking for a new building.
Yeah.
And the appearance would not include vinyl. That is the most vile covering available, and we need to quit that, but
Well, we're gonna have a new building. There's gonna be a new building.
it's likely in the back where we won't see it.
I think so.
All right,
John, you
let's
gotta-
get
you
the
gotta
architects
build
to
it.
work.
This is the building, right?
Yes,
The
okay,
hallway goes like this.
yeah, down the
You're not gonna
middle.
put the thing on the end. It's no hallway.
Where are you gonna put it?
Put it right on the end.
Towards the parking lot?
That's my gut.
Given that the septic's out there.
No, it's, you know, if you remember my talk, it
Well, I
was just like
disagree
a
with it.
idea I came up with. It was that you don't have a downtown, but you have the gig and you have the church and you have Guilford Butler and.
I like that thought.
And the
yes.
town office, you know, and to the extent you can bring those things together. Have that, the cool thing about the renderings that were done for the CDS grant, it was like, you know, and renderings always kind of fluff a little bit, but there's like a beacon of light, the shiny windows, it's lit up at night, there's activity. You know, you drive by, you get a warm feeling that your town is alive, you know, in the winter, in a cold winter day, you know, and. I don't think it has to be on either particular end, but there's just something aesthetically about it being on the town side, so to speak, that I think appeals to me as a planner.
Mhm.
And the other thing I liked about it is that. You know, the parking for the church would be that much closer. And if we're
Mhm.
building the addition for town meeting. And that's when you need that, that's the one day of the year, or you need that parking lot the most. Wouldn't it be nice if it was just through the skate park?
Mhm.
So. I'm ignorant of the septic issues and the cert and the grade and all that, but to me, just looking at it. Without having to deal with all those considerations, I felt like that's where it belonged.
Well, I disagree with it, but
what-
there will be another time for that.
Well, let's talk about it. What do you?
Well, I do think especially, you know, the community building or that multipurpose room, I mean, you want again the optimal orientation for it, for passive solar and all these other things. But at the same time, you want people to be able to enjoy the activities. And I don't know if you noticed, but there is a fair amount of traffic, which is pretty loud and smelly. And, you know, having a unit in the back that allows you to have, you know, tables outside for people to have meetings, like the book club, like the luncheon, and, you know, enjoy that without the noise, without, you know, the fumes, would be much more pleasant. And it's much easier to create that if you have it, you know, in the back of this building.
Yeah, those are,
And you can access the parking lot from the church, that's the same way with a path going through it,
yeah,
you know.
I agree with about half of that.
Well, so there we go.
This is an important discussion because we don't want to. We want to give the architect suggestions about 2 different ways to go.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
relate to different points of view. But they can't spin their wheels forever.
It's also good to, you know, let the architects say what they think. You know?
That
Yeah.
is true.
This is how I feel that the architects can tell us the best place to put an addition, and then, of course, they would take all of these things into consideration.
Yeah, I guess just as a developer, I'm always concerned with how my buildings look from the street. I feel like that's an important psychological piece.
Yeah, I don't want to put it on the street side, that's for sure, you know.
I think that part of the reason that the effort to tear down the building was ultimately unsuccessful was because folks like driving by and seeing that building.
Yeah.
And I don't think either one of the ideas takes away from that, but it does kind of indicate that the view from the street does matter.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a way, if the addition was in behind, it was high enough to pop over and it was super cool and it.
And
did
the way
thing, you
you're
know?
going to remodel this, I mean, make it attractive from the front, you know, and
Mhm.
that will be a big part of it. Mm.
I'm gonna vote with Catherine on this one in terms of we have almost 3 acres back there, and if we don't extend to. It'll just be the jungle that it is, and peace and quiet's very important. The ability to go outside, to have a patio next to the addition, etc.
What do you want to look at exactly? You'd rather look at trees and flowers and kids playing than, you know, being here and looking at cars going by.
Yeah,
I mean,
you gotta think about site costs too. You gotta think about fill.
yeah, but ultimately, this is for the people of the town to enjoy and get together. It has to be an invitation to come and enjoy yourself and, you know, find pleasure in coming here.
No, I agree with that, but I don't think it will be unpleasurable to.
To me,
Building in a slightly different spot, but I think that's we're not quite there yet.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to this for a sec. I thought we were talking about sewage location, whatever, and then all of a sudden. It seemed to get involved with, you know, the addition and whatever, so.
Do we know where the septic is?
Out the front.
Oh, this way.
Wait, is that here? Oh, yeah, I thought it was out.
Leachfield's out there, septic's over here.
Yeah, I
We
don't
got a
think either one of
survey.
those discussions
We
were
get the
gonna put it
survey?
there, so.
They sent us a survey.
That showed where the septic was.
And it's-
Guilford Butler,
I think it's insufficient.
school administration thing, did you get that?
That brings up an idea. I did speak with Gartley and Dorsey about potentially working on it. I said, I don't think we have a scope that we want a formal proposal from you, but you have some interest. They indicated that they did, so. Is anyone objecting to me sort of talking to them about some
think it would
additional
be a good
questions we might
idea.
have?
Again, the more information, the more professional the information is, the better the chance we make a good decision.
Because what the architect is, as the architect thinks about where to site this building, they're gonna think about it from the things that we talked about, you know, the people aspects of it that we've sort of been going back and forth on, but they're also gonna think about the constructability and the feasibility, and a lot of that has to do with the grade and the finished floor elevations and those types of things, and they're gonna want to probably talk a little bit with the civil for that, so,
Yeah.
And I want us to also consider downstairs. There's a huge amount of room down there that could be
Mhm.
renovated
Mhm.
successfully, I think.
yeah, one of the things I wanna make sure the architect does is checks in with the state fire marshal about that
Yeah.
code issue that
Right.
Mr. DiMaggio put in his
Yeah.
booklet about, well, what if you pop the tiles up, do you
Right.
then have the roof? And I'm not saying that we don't still want an addition, but it'd be awful nice to know what we
Yes.
have.
Options are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
But the fire marshal's issue was not with the ceiling height. It was with the stairwell being enclosed with firewall and the second egress not having adequate head. Those were the reasons that we could not occupy down there. They could care less about how tall the ceiling was because it's sprinkled. And they were
Okay,
excited about that. So I don't know if it's the fire marshal that
maybe it was the code. Okay,
we're under UBEC, so.
No.
That's another thing I think is the architects.
right, yeah.
And that's frankly where I'm ready to go before we talk about where and when
Addition, yeah.
an addition goes on. So,
I
It
got
is
a
sim-
really stupid thing.
great, let's hear it.
I'd like to see the old windows back again.
I know.
I can't imagine why they brought them way down.
I would too, but I suspect it'll be
Yeah, cost
prohibitive.
prohibitive,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
But-
if you look
bad they
at the
removed them.
drawing, the original windows that opened were just the same height, and then it was glass block from there
Yeah,
to 18
right.
inches above that.
Right,
You could do a nice metal panel that has the same size as the glass block. You know, and would bring you back to, oh yeah, that used to be glass block, and it would sort of reproduce what was there, cause I'm right there with you.
Me too, I love.
I got into a
Yeah.
huge fight with Maine State Housing Authority about glass block on the Hodgkin School in Augusta, and they have these green
oh,
standards
yeah,
that go head to head with the historic standards, and we had to keep this glass block wall, and the construction services guy legitimately tried to end our project over it. That after the loan officer retired, he forwarded us the emails, the guy was sending him at 2 a.m. and tried to kill us. And it's all public information, I hope he sees this, but, we had to end up putting in. We had to do an energy model that showed we were gonna spend, I'm making a number up, $12,000 more in natural gas every year. So we had to put a, escrow for the money, and we had to put an escrow to tear out the glass block after the historic period expired, which was 5 years, and we saved so much money on it the first year, it kind of went away, but it was a big thing.
yeah.
Glass block is just turning historic now, so.
The Bucksport, project that Win Scott did increase the height of the windows. With respect to glass block, the original glass block, it was nice.
Yeah.
there is a definite site analysis that has to be done. There's 3 levels to this building. There's the lower level and the garage level, plus the addition. If it becomes at a different level than any of these, so that's a big thing that the architects will have to take a look at.
Yeah.
What I would ask the committee to maybe to vote on, this is just an idea, is can talk to Gartley and Dorsey to bring them on retainer for a amount not to exceed X in support of Winton Scott. And, you know, that can come from money that I'll put in. So if we said not to exceed 5,000, I'll probably keep it at 2 or 3. But we don't know if we'll use them for 1,000. Then they're gonna kind of call them and it'll be hourly. I don't want to get a fixed fee from a civil engineer for at this level, if it's not enough work. And so, if we could get the committee to vote on that, it would be covered by my donation, and then we could approve it later.
Well, I move that we, get a proposal from Gartley Dorsey for not to exceed $3,000, for early civil engineering, mostly elevations, right?
It'd be just in support of the architect. The elevations will be produced by the architect.
Okay, guys, the elevation issues.
Yeah. Cut and fill on this, on the topo.
Right,
We don't have topo on the survey, do we?
no,
Yeah, that's a,
but they have, basic, aerial, topo, don't they?
yeah, you can get 2-foot contours probably off the state website. That's enough.
Plenty of those, yeah.
A
Three-
second. You made a motion, right?
He did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
asked
second
him
it,
to.
yeah, it's fine.
And it's just to get the proposal at this point, because same thing, the money issue may need to be worked out through the select board and stuff.
I would like you to approve. Well, I don't know how that works, because I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to wait another month to be able to let them start working. So what I'm saying is, I'm gonna donate $5,000 to this committee for its work, and if somehow that doesn't get approved, I'll pay for it out of pocket and I'll donate that much less to the committee, so it's kind
That
of getting
works.
covered either way.
Right.
So the committee will be held financially neutral on it.
A second.
Yeah, is that, yeah.
I'm not. I'm not sure that we should limit it to $3,000 if you feel there's a chance that it will cost more than that, because it would hold everything up. I mean, if the money for this particular piece is coming from you and it's $5,000, even though you're gonna work hard to negotiate it to be less than 5,000, if we say 3,000, it comes to 3,500, then we might be stopping there with that.
that's a good point.
Why don't we just say
Well,
not to
Make a
exceed
friendly amendment
5,000?
to your motion.
yeah, I'm make a motion that we engage Gartley and Dorsey for an amount not to exceed $5,000 for early, site consultation with the architect. And that this be paid for by Kevin Bunker in the event that the select board doesn't approve it.
Second on the amendment,
Second,
Second,
Geez, I gotta
discussion
write
on the
that one out.
amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, the motion's on the floor as amended. Discussion on the amended motion.
No.
All right, let's call for a vote, Madam Chair.
All in favor of, limit of 5,000 for Gartley Dorsey to support the, Winton Scott. Okay.
Now we just gotta keep Gartley and Dorsey from reading the minutes.
Right, so, any other business? I have none down and I.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to have it reflected in the minutes that we ought to try to find a couple more, another champion or 3 to try to find another 10K for any other work you might want to talk about next month. Don't know what that is yet.
I already put it in.
Okay, great. And I'm good.
So you would make the donation to the town?
I would, yeah, if that's however it has to be done, yeah. It's tax deductible, right?
Yeah.
Nice, okay.
Okay, under correspondence. Michael brought this to me and he wanted to send a written acknowledgement of the previous facility committee's work. And I told him we put it on the agenda, so.
My thinking, as a reasonably new member of the town and a very new member of this committee is, it's time to clarify that we're moving on. And that we want to let people who had a different point of view about what the building should look like be told that we appreciated their work. Not that there weren't problems, but you know, if you read all the minutes and the reports, you see that people worked hard.
Very hard.
There may have been some
Yeah.
problems with communication and assumptions, but I think the way to bring people back is to let them know that we understand and appreciated the work that they did. And we really don't want them to leave.
I think that's super appropriate, and I
Mhm.
think that that when and if we get to a point where we have a completed building and a ribbon cutting, I think that that work is gonna be reflected in that in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, you know, whenever the bruises or wounds are healed is a different question, but I think that's a good idea for us to do.
I have this final report from the future committee. And I have all the pages except for a few, but reading through this numerous times, they did an amazing amount of work. And I think maybe if the town were more involved and knew what was going on back in 2018 and 2019, that it would have gone a lot smoother and there wouldn't have been this negative
I
impact
believe
on.
Michael is speaking about sending this written acknowledgement to the previous facilities committee,
Yes.
not the future.
Not the futures committee, okay.
Well,
That may be because
I
I-
don't think the Futures Committee is chopped liver. I mean, I think they.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they're part of the facilities.
that's what I thought they
Yeah.
started out.
I think it's in our best interest to not speculate on what happened, because I
Mhm.
don't think, what I've seen is. Whenever we talk about the past, nobody agrees on what happened. But I think we're beginning to forge a nice little consensus on how to try to begin to move forward. And I think the better we can focus on that, the less nervous I'll be about.
I think the lesson to be learned is communication. So if you looked at the previous minutes and so forth, you see that there was an attempt at doing a newsletter. And maybe not do anything so fancy, but still try to be clear in the language about what the thoughts are and our process and what we're doing. And but again, the distribution is the key. We have a listserv, but it doesn't reach many people. So even though we want to communicate, the ways of communicating are still limited. So
You might have to knock on doors and say, I mean, everybody who was involved and had some voice in this project to this point. Their names are on paper somewhere, and we need to reach out to them and say, here's what we're talking about, and make sure that we have over communicated.
Oh.
Moira, I'd ask for your input at this point.
That's why I come.
Okay.
To hear what you're saying and what direction you're coming, and the only way I'm gonna find that out if I physically come to your meetings.
We're happy to have you, and I'm asking you how you feel about the motions that have been made and the direction that the committee is taking now.
What I would have liked was that you could have shared like the proposals from the architect when you sent out for the agenda, just like you didn't have to send out how many pages were, but these are the proposals from these two architects. This is what they said. So that we're just not sitting here going, what was the proposal? That's part of the communication that is lacking for, as I sit here. Just to get us involved, have some things that are attached to the agenda that says, this is what we're gonna talk about, this thing, and you don't have to get bullet points, they quick and simple. We were aware of that. And
No problem.
I think it's great that, you've got proposals. I think it's great that you are working on that. I think it's those are appropriate. But it doesn't sound like you're all on the same page, and you're gonna have to have those discussions. You have new members about how you want things, and that's all part of why I sit here and listen. Just like the discussion about the outside of the building, the noise, or where the position of the new multipurpose room is. That's all part of the discussion that you'll all have to get on the same page with to help with your architectural proposal.
I
Oh,
think one of the main messages that I'm hearing from the committee is that we're waiting for the architect to give us options.
Yes.
And we're not proposing that we know where to go.
Well,
And
when-
we're asking for
But-
professional
But
opinion.
once you get that proposal and you hear what they say, the committee is a voice that says yay or nay or what. And I don't know if you've had that, you haven't had that discussion yet, you started it. And but the whole committee decided what they like.
Yeah.
I understand you won't, like building a house, you won't go to the architect, get this information, but you have an idea what you want.
What you
And I
like,
don't think-
exactly.
You're all on the same page there, but that's just from listening, because today's your first meeting where you're actually sitting down and talking about it.
Agreed. So there's no, that's the point of the discussion.
Yeah, I think we're right where we're supposed to be right now.
Yeah.
Paul,
Yes, I would kind of agree with Maura on that, it would be nice to have had, some of those published, or if you could access them online. And following through with that thought, I think getting the community involved, once you have some architectural drawings, would be really important, just, I don't know, coffee clutches, brunches, whatever you call it. Community meetings, and let people come in and see what you're tossing around. Some people think the building originally was gorgeous. Some of us think it was less than gorgeous. And how do we, but you want the town to, the majority of the town to have some input in there. So getting people together for a meeting would be great, and pre-publishing some of the materials, and certainly be helpful for the people that at least are following.
So as a committee, what I think we could try to do a better job at is, so the agenda goes out a week before the meeting. I think that we should think about our work month as sort of a 3-week month. So that what happened was we got the WinScott proposal this morning because they had COVID and blah, blah, blah. So that couldn't have been prevented this month. But I think your point is well taken, that if we're really operating in the sunlight and we don't want to make it look like, we're just doing our own thing and you guys are out there trying to catch up. I think we should generally try to not produce work products all month and then talk about them at the meeting, but we should try to, at least when the agenda comes out, to try to put a little more meat on what happened during the month, so that but that's the only way folks that are outside the group are learning about it, that they can see, kind of how it's going.
And I want to add, so I contacted Xander, he never replied, and I contacted Miriam Architects and here Jason Miriam was very interested, but contacted too late, he had too little time, so he said he was interested, but didn't have time to write a formal proposal. And he sent still a rate sheet and list of projects he had done, including his little stories that his kids had come here. And he had worked as well on the Ashbourne School, so. That's nice.
So I think on the agenda for next month, we should, one of our items should be establishing an overall project schedule, not for construction and all that, but the initial work of this committee where we do our pre-development piece. Whether that's 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or 6 weeks, and try to fine tune that after some discussion with the architect, because Paul's point is well taken, that schedule is not just the work that we're doing, it's also the raising of the money, the public input. We want to have a logical sequencing of all the different pieces that come together. So maybe maybe sort of the cherry on top is not so much, here it is, select board, but here it is, public and select board. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's see what you think. I think it's, having done a lot of these public participation types of meetings, we want to go in without the whole thing being fixed and done and complete, because then folks are like, well, why are you bothering to show us? Nothing's gonna change. But have a good enough grounding in the ideas and the reasons and the logic for what we're doing, that we can say, well, here's why we made that decision. And yeah, we did think about putting the addition over here, but it would have meant this much more money and it would have meant this much aesthetically. And so we decided to do it here and see if, you know, if 75% of the people that look at it think we're wrong, then we're probably wrong. If 60% of the people think we're right and 40% think we're wrong, well, we kind of have to tentatively proceed. If what we really want is 80% or more of the people that see it to think, wow, this is kind of on the right track.
Right.
And that's how we'll know where we're headed. If we get anything that's like 50-50, one of the lessons I got from the process last time is that's maybe not slam on the brakes, but maybe that's pump the brakes a little bit. Try to figure out a way to, okay, how do we try to build some consensus?
So,
So we have to schedule our meetings around the select board, right?
yeah, but to finish up with the written acknowledgement of the previous facility committee, would you like to draft something, Michael? Was that?
I'll be glad to draft it.
Is it appropriate to include the futures committee as well?
Well, I mean, that's 5 years old and that was,
Okay.
I don't care, but.
And the group that did the CDS application, they wanted to work too. And
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some people.
I think if we're trying to acknowledge previous work, it's multiple committees.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll send it to everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's saying, the auxiliary committee, a lot of the work that has led us to the point that we're at.
So Michael, you're gonna write a draft a letter.
We might tailor it a little bit to different committees,
Right.
but I'll I'll try and send a general draft to people before the meeting so that we can decide what to do with it at the meeting.
You know, I don't know if that's the kind of thing that rises to the level of needing to be in the agenda of the board skipping of the letter, but that's maybe not as critical as big things like architect proposals, but. The more we can be transparent, the more we can provide the public whether they want to read it or not. It's easier.
Okay, so. Next meeting. The select board. Next.
You want to keep it on a Monday, so we don't,
Well, Monday is, means I have to clear the community room to get the yoga in there. So it's kind of I'm willing to do that.
I would not prefer Monday.
all right, I'm just trying to make it
You
easy.
would or not? Would not.
It's just we never know when the select board's gonna meet, I mean, they don't.
Well, we do have a
Schedule.
schedule for the next 10th and 24th are the September meetings.
Well,
Which is a Tuesday. Yeah.
I'll be in Boston on the 10th.
I'll be in Missouri.
I'm available on the 24th.
Well, the 24th and the 10th are the select board's meetings.
So we've only.
What
got
about the 17th?
That'd be it then,
17th is pretty soon.
yeah.
I don't think it's reasonable to think we're gonna have anything from the architect by then.
Mm.
Well, even just
Well,
schedule a meeting with the architect here with the committee.
well, then, Monday, if you said you were available on the 24th, does that mean you're available on the 23rd?
I'm available on all those days, 17th, 23rd, yeah, the 17th maybe makes some sense.
We're talking September,
But
right?
if we're meeting the committee on the 17th, there's architects not gonna do anything until the 17th.
They probably shouldn't do anything until they hear from us and
So
see the
your
building.
earlier point about wanting to push them into doing it in a few weeks.
Yeah, just come talk to us. Kevin, I don't understand. They're coming here to see the building, to meet the committee, to understand some of the design questions.
Yeah.
And that's an early meeting.
Yeah, if you, I don't care either way, but if the meeting was a little bit later and it was, say, 4 or 5 weeks from now, potentially the architect could come through, tour the building, look at the plans, chew on it, grapple a little more and meet the committee being a little more informed.
Well, we can send them the existing plans.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think it's a major point. I don't have a strong feeling either way.
I think it's important that they are here physically
Oh, yeah.
and looking at it.
and
Oh, for
sooner
sure.
is better.
Yeah.
I mean,
So the 23rd and the 30th is a Monday.
I can do the 30th, but I can't do the 23rd to the 27th.
The seventeenth
can-
and 24th.
I can call him and see if he picks up and see what he thinks.
why don't we, do you wanna go in the hall and then call them? That's fine.
One bar, I might pick up right here. I don't know. Is
That would be public.
that wrong?
No, that's good.
You may be home having a
Put him right on
cocktail.
this- I'm gonna put him right on the spot.
Okay.
That hour, something.
Right.
Please leave your message for
It's after hours.
It's after hours.
Nope.
6:45, man.
Probably his anniversary, is that what it is?
He just, he's smart enough to limit his workday.
We can change the day of the meeting, right, as long as we're,
Yeah, let's just pick a date folks are comfortable with. I don't think it's a major.
It sounds like the 30th is gonna, I mean, if everybody's gonna be away.
The 17th, I thought we were.
Unless, I probably decided that was a little too close.
Yeah, John's right. I don't think it's a major thing, whatever. If we're,
sooner is better in my book.
Yeah, I would vote for the 17th.
okay. 5:30?
Which day? 17th. What day is that?
I will
It's a
be
Tuesday.
away that day, but I will try to zoom in. With a 6 hour
So the
delay.
17th? Is that what we're deciding?
You're away.
It's okay.
Or as such time as the architect
What time
would
is it?
prefer.
6
because,
hours.
I mean, if they wanna do it
later,
3
so
o'clock,
5:30
is that
or
okay?
6:30.
That's good.
Yeah, I think so. Kind of my workday a little bit, but what the hell?
11:30 PM.
Maybe if you give them a lobster bite.
How much those cost?
Yeah.
I know a guy that.
I know.
A mean lobster roll.
Yeah, really.
You make lobster sliders.
Yeah.
And Pam would, she loves cooking lobster rolls.
So 17th, is that what we've decided?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
pending
you said
confirmation
5:30?
from the architect. I mean, they just might not be available.
Right.
So.
And if that's the case,
You can change it.
We'll change our things.
I will reach out to the committee forthwith.
Which
But,
one can be here? for the
like if the
17th?
Monday, the 23rd would work for them, we can make it work.
I'll ask them about the 17th, the first preference, or the 23rd and 24th is backup,
Not the
So-
24th,
not the 24th.
because that's the select board meeting,
Okay.
and we don't have the Zoom.
Right,
That's a good idea.
September what?
September
17th.
But did you just say another date or no?
Maybe the 23rd,
23rd.
if that works.
I won't be here. I'll be in Missouri.
On which date?
23rd.
The 23rd
Okay.
through the 27th.
And I will be away as well.
We can't have perfect attendance at every meeting.
I
We
know.
need 5 for a
It's
quorum.
okay, I didn't interfere with the selection of the date.
I will try really hard to Zoom. I mean, if we're up and partying hard.
Oh, let's see.
Forget it. No, I will do my very best to do that, but
So you
just
wanna
give me
just
the
play in
address.
the 30th as an alternate date? If that's, if everybody's
No.
gonna be away.
No.
17th and the
7th.
23rd.
Yeah.
The 23rd, okay. So I
Oh,
will do
okay.
everything I can.
So 2 people are not gonna be here for that, okay.
But they may be on Zoom.
That's right.
Okay.
I can wear my pajamas then.
That's right, just
Yeah.
keep the camera up high.
All right, so Penny, will you give me the Zoom address for that later?
Yes,
is on the
that will go
agenda.
out on the
Oh,
agenda.
thank you, darling. Yeah.
In fact, it is well, the one you have now.
No, oh, perfect.
It's
I'll just make sure I
recurring
have it.
meetings, so it will be the same every meeting.
We'll just do this. And. so- That starts. 5:30, right?
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
Are we ready?
I think we are.
Oh, one quick question,
Yeah, sorry.
and then I'll second it.
Okay.
So the 17th is also at 5:30?
We think,
Yeah,
Depending on when the architects want to schedule, it, maybe earlier.
Okay, so I'll just have to keep in tune with you, because
That would
I'm,
be good.
I'm out in town. and I'm
earlier is better
with,
for folks generally.
what?
5:30 is good, or
You say earlier is
He's gonna-
better for you?
Earlier, yeah, I'll be in Europe, so, you know, if I try to Zoom, you know, 5:30 is
11:30 is late for
11:30
her.
me.
Okay, 3 o'clock would be 9 o'clock.
Huh?
I just got back from Europe. I'm
Mhm.
still kind of.
Sleepy, yeah.
Alrighty, so.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Yes.
I think we had a second.
Yep.
Oh, you did? Oh, I seconded.
All in favor?
Good
Thank
work,
you very
everybody.
much.
This is
Thank you.
efficient, good start.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Have a good evening, you all.
Hello.
Good night, Catherine, thanks for getting that. thing.
Wait.
I'm asking because I'm gonna be going back.